Today on VolleyDons Weekly, the Mastodons didn't play last week, so Coach Perrott and I get to talk about whatever we want. Then we bring in sophomore outside hitter Austin Neese. He gets to talk a little bit about his career here at IPFW. And finally, we'll bring back head coach Rock Perrott, and we'll talk about our upcoming 2 matches against Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona. All that and more coming up on VolleyDons Weekly. Welcome to VolleyDons Weekly, everybody. I'm your host, JW Keycafer. This is the star out to my right, Coach Rock Perrott. And a quick thank you to our sponsors, Alco, Active Ankle, Asics, Glenbrook Dodge, and the Hyatt Place. Today, we get to talk about, as I teased earlier on today, Coach, whatever we want in the first segment. Whatever your heart desires in the first segment for the first 8 minutes of the show.
Well, I want to know why you go back to your childhood roots of being a baseball umpire and ejecting me every intro tease. You do this every time, right?
Ejecting you how?
Throw me out. I'm in the baseball because of the World Baseball Classic. Yeah. Canada's doing really well, by the way. And then you just be throwing everybody.
Canada lost to the U.S. like 0-9, I think. I think they were down 0-5 in the first 2 innings. So, yeah, that's how good Canada did.
But what Canada doesn't understand is that they're playing in the year 2017.
Well, they must have. They thought it was golf. They thought they were playing golf rules in baseball. The low number wins, right? Low number wins.
This is the 2017 or 2017 World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
Canada, however, brought their team from 2011 because Eric Gagne's still playing, Joe Siddle is coaching,
Dempster was pitching.
Buck Martinez, Dempster. I'm like, what team is this? What decade am I watching here?
Eric Gagne, that is a blast from the past, Eric Gagne.
He was an MVP, by the way.
Yeah, like I think he still holds the records for the most saves of any person ever.
I think that's right, with the
season.
Dodgers one year. Yeah. On 2 pitches, so anyway.
Anyway, update from the week of practice here. The Mastodons are back with a full week of practice before, 2 days. Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, we head out to Phoenix tomorrow night. So how are we looking so far getting ready for our back half of the conference season?
Well, it was spring break here, so that's part of the reason why we didn't play. That's great scheduling. You know, every week I come on here, I say, what awful scheduling. Whoever did the schedule, you should be fired because we played tough matches week in, week out. Well, whoever did the schedule this year should get a pay raise because 2 weekends off, I should say 2 weekends off, not 2 weeks off, 2 weekends off from competition. And I actually think it's been a blessing. For our team. Number one, it refreshes you to get away from the sport a little while. I tell you this all the time. Charles Barkley never touched a basketball in the offseason. People say that's good. Some people say that's bad. He just said, I had to get away from it, mentally, physically, and he did. And this guy was a top 50 NBA basketball player of all time.
Now, is that the exception or is that the rule there in regards to over the offseason not touching a basketball?
Believe it or not, for some, I think that might be the rule, to be quite honest with you. But it's probably the exception. But we needed to get away from volleyball. We played so many matches, so many tight matches, very competitive, with a small roster. I think the wear and tear got to us. So it was really nice to have. We took a 7-day break off after played Lords. Then we came back and had 2 meaningful practices, really hard-spirited. And then we took another 5 days off to kind of recoup a little bit and then come back for 3 in a row before going out to Grand Canyon.
So that was the schedule. How do you think we looked in the last 2 practices so far? We'll have a third one on Wednesday.
Well, the first practice, obviously, after a long layaway, it's always sloppy. You try and retune and refine the skills a little bit because you're a little bit rusty. But I think after that, we kind of got into a groove. The other thing that I think helped is healing. I think the body heals being away for a little bit, and we definitely need that because we have some nicks and knacks on the human body from playing so many volleyball matches. So I think it's a good thing. I think that we're slowly building peaking towards the end of the season. Again, that Lord's match, I thought we were flat, but I think we're going to be hungry again for the last 8 matches of our MIVA conference schedule.
Talking about the upcoming matches, what are you looking forward to? Who are you looking forward to making the next step offensively, defensively? What are you looking to get out of this volleyball team in the last 8 matches this year?
Well, I'm looking forward to increasing my air mileage and my frequent airline miles that I get.
Yeah.
Because we're still on the road for another 2 weeks before we come back home. So I'm looking forward to that. Here's what I'm looking forward to. Grand Canyon, by the way, is going to be a really tough volleyball match. But I'm looking forward to, number one, seeing Grand Canyon play up front. Because as I've told you before, them and Ball State are the 2 most improved teams in our conference. Number 2 is I'm looking forward to seeing Ohio State play after they lost. because that big streak of 40 matches in a row that they lost last week to Irvine, so that's done. I'm also looking forward to playing McKendree at McKendree, because that's a big one in terms of seeding and everything else. The matches here at home are going to take care of themselves with Lindenwood, Quincy, Loyola, and Lewis. They're going to take care of themselves because those are like revenge matches, and there's going to be so much emotion and animosity, all that stuff. So those are going to take, but it's those last 4 that are on the road that I'm really compelled to watch and be a part of.
Well, talk a little bit about the standings, where we're standing right now. I think as you looked at it, we're standing 6th place.
Yes.
But just try to go through the standings really quick and talk about each one of those teams.
Well, Ohio State's number 1. They're still undefeated in our conference, even though they have 1 match loss on the record. They're 1 blemish to Irvine.
They lost last week at home against Irvine, but that's not a conference match. So they're still undefeated in conference.
Still undefeated. So they're number 1. Lewis is number 2. Currently, Grand Canyon is number 3. Ball State is 4. McKendree is 5. And we're 6th. I think that's right.
I think I'm questioning you. You went over it really fast. Ohio State 1.
Ohio State's 1.
2.
Lewis is 2.
Grand Canyon 3.
Grand Canyon's 3. Loyola is 4. Ball State's 5. And then we're tied with McKendree. But we have the tiebreak because we beat McKendree here in 5. Now Lindenwood beat us, but we will have the tiebreaker because we're going to beat Lindenwood the next time we play them. So we have the tiebreaker. That's why that McKendree match is so big for us. So we sit in 6. So if the playoffs ended today, we would actually have to fly out to Phoenix again and play Grand Canyon in the first round or the quarterfinals.
And there's a lot of volleyball left to play in regards to that. I believe Grand Canyon still has to play Ohio State twice.
Yeah.
And they get to play Loyola twice, 2 of the top teams in the conference.
Correct.
So they have 2 tough weekends with those. Referring to our schedule, you talked about our upcoming matchups. McKendree has 2 matches against Ohio State as well, which is tough because they're obviously the best team in the nation. We still think they are. Long Beach State's now ranked number 1 for the first time this year. But we're in that 3-way tie with 2 wins each between McKendree, Lindenwood, and us, and we're kind of looking to hopefully win out at the end of that. So which matches do you think we can get at the end of the year? Which matches are we looking to get? What is the win total going to look at by the end of the year?
Well, listen, if you want to be realistic, I've always said this. You got to split with Grand Canyon. And it's hard to play Grand Canyon back-to-back because they physically wear you. I've never seen anything like it. Ask Ohio State. Ask Lewis. Lewis went there. They blew them out the opening night, 3-0. The second night, they lose in 5. They play Ohio State in Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon loses the first night, 3-0. They come back. They go 5. Ohio State wins. They physically wear you. I've never seen anything like it in volleyball in a long, long time. So I think that's a big match. Ohio State's just a difficult match. You go out and play Ohio State, let the chips fall to the man. I think the McKendree one's going to be another barn burner. I think that goes 5 sets down to the nitty-gritty with them. And I think the ones that are here are also going to be nitty-gritty with Lindenwood, Quincy, who we're evenly matched with. Loyola, we let leads slip away. Again, we matched up really well against them. And then Lewis, we played an amazing first set and a half, I guess, at Lewis, and then we ended up collapsing. So there's no team that I don't think we can't beat other than Ohio State. Ohio State is just on another planet right now. They're a bunch of aliens playing volleyball here on this planet we call Earth. But everybody else, there's nobody else that I'm afraid to play because I think we match up very well against every team in our conference.
Well, with that being said, we're going to welcome in Austin Neese after the break. Thanks, Coach Rock, for being here, and we'll see you after the break.
Here we are, 2013. We all depend on technology to communicate, to bank, and none of us know how to read and write code.
The first program I wrote asked things like, what's your favorite color? Or how old are you?
I wrote a program to play tic-tac-toe.
I first learned how to make a green circle and a red square appear on the screen.
You're just trying to make something, trying to transfer something from your mind to the computer or to a tablet. It's an experience.
The whole limit in the system is just that there just aren't enough people who are trained and have these skills today.
The programmers of tomorrow are the wizards of the future. You know, you're going to look like you have magic powers compared to everybody else.
Great coders are today's rock stars. That's it.
I'm a professor in the Department of English and Linguistics, so I teach medieval literature classes and Latin language classes. So the topics I teach tend to be difficult, so learning how to read Chaucer's Canterbury Tales in Middle English is difficult and slow-going. I always call my students, my junior medievalists, because that's what I like to think I'm doing, is creating, the next generation.
Welcome back, everybody, to VolleyDons Weekly. I'm assistant coach and host JW Keycafer. With me, we have sophomore outside hitter Austin Neese from Naperville, Illinois?
Naperville, yeah.
Naperville, Illinois. Gotta love good old Kim and Glenn.
Yep.
we had a really cool event early on this season with your parents. They actually hosted us at your mom's church, correct?
Yep.
We had a nice little get together when we were there over at Lewis and Loyola.
Oh yeah, my mom was super excited about it. She wanted to have everyone over to our house, but it was just unrealistic with how many people we have on our team, plus the coaches and the bus driver. So we had it at our church.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Your church is like one of those ones that's kind of like a school and a church together, right? They do some kind of schooling there too?
Yeah, there's a preschool there, and there's also a elementary school, like private elementary school, but they are not like affiliated with our church
just
at
they
all.
use the space,
Yeah,
basically.
they just like pay to use the
What
space.
was cool is that it had like a little bit of an area for us to use. So that was pretty cool that we had some fun with play a little couple games, we went and have a little dinner, and we were able to watch some volleyball, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah. And
Very nice of
We
them.
saw what type of shape you were in.
Hey, all I know is I won.
You did win.
I won.
That was
I was
impressive.
not in shape, but
You willed your way to victory. That's for sure. That's for sure.
I think it probably took me a good 30 minutes to get my breath back after that.
You're like, we're playing again?
We're playing. I can't even
I'll sit
do
this
it
one
time.
out.
We played knockout, or what people call lightning, at the church, and I won the first game with everybody except I almost fell over, I think, while I was playing.
It was a long last round, though. You versus my dad.
It was a
You
lot.
guys were both running back and forth.
Yeah, he was in better shape than I was, which is sad because he looked like he was pretty good.
Yeah, he plays basketball like 3 or 4 times a week, so
Yeah.
he's in decent shape.
He was good. So talk a little bit about the season so far. So some pros, some cons, good things, bad things, stuff like that.
Well, I think for sure one big pro is that we're a young team and we're like really starting to figure things out, I think. And in the upcoming years, I think we're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the conference. So watch out, Miva.
By young team, what exactly do you mean?
Well, we have most of the people starting right now are underclassmen, so and they're experienced too, which is good. And I think the more experience we get, the better we're going to be in the future.
I think the interesting thing along the same lines with that is that we've now had a lot of our sophomore class. Our sophomore class is really big, and you're one of those players included. And a lot of these guys now have played a little bit their freshman year, and now most of you guys have played a significant amount of time now in your sophomore year. So maybe by the time you get to be juniors, you're not necessarily one of those guys who's just coming into play with a little bit of practice experience. All you guys have a lot of match experience. So talk about how that's hopefully going to help us in going forward here at the last half of this season, and then maybe moving into next year.
Well, yeah, with injuries and all, everybody's getting to play this year, and I think that'll help a lot because, like, just playing in a game, you're not going to be as nervous the next time you play and the next time. And I feel like a lot of people on our team do have those nerves when they come in, but they're starting to go away. And the fact that, like, we're competing with teams that are juniors and seniors, by the time we're juniors and seniors, we're going to be more physical and in better shape and more experienced, and I think that will really help.
What do you think about your role? Talk a little bit about your role on this team this year and the things you've been doing.
Yeah, well, mostly coming off the bench, I feel like my role is like kind of bring energy and like intensity to the game when we're lacking it.
Mm-hmm. Austin's been pretty much our third outside pretty much this entire year. One of those guys who isn't starting a whole ton of matches. Have you started a match yet?
I started at the beginning of the year,
At the
like
beginning
in
of the year?
California.
1 or 2 maybe? So your role has pretty much been that first outside off the bench. So if one of our starters were to falter, if Colton or Pele were to kind of break down a little bit, you're the first guy to come off the bench and, like you said, to bring some energy. Talk about the difficulties of that role.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's real sudden, so it's like Rock will be like, hey, you're in, like go, and I like no warm up or anything. So, you always gotta be ready, like mentally, even if you're not completely warmed up physically, and like try to stay warm on the bench.
Talk about the mental side of the game and how that's really important for somebody on the bench to really be thinking the game while maybe they're standing there, because they don't, like you said, you don't know when you're going to go in.
Yeah, well, like on the bench, you got to notice like what's happening, what's going wrong, and it's easier to see than like when you're playing, because, I mean, when you're playing, you're kind of just thinking about playing, not like trying to see like, oh, this is happening, so we need to do this. Like that's like kind of more the bench people's job to tell you. So like the fact that I'm seeing that before I go in can help me like keep it in the back of my mind to like make adjustments to how I would normally play.
Are you able to communicate that with some of our starters? Do you have a good relationship with Cole and Pele, and when Tony was playing, and Nick has played a little bit too,
Yeah.
and when maybe you're not in, and there's been a lot of times you've come in and they've done that same with you, but talk about that communication back and forth between the person that's on the bench and maybe the people who are starting during timeouts.
Well, yeah, as much as like you want to be starting, you still got to be able to communicate with the people who are starting, and like not like at practice you got to battle and like maybe you'll argue then, but once it comes to the game, everybody's still friends, and like you got to help each other out, like for the team, not think about yourself. So like, if I see that Colton's like shading right and the ball keeps beating him left, I'll be like, hey Colton, like either stay centered or whatever, help him out.
You talked about being good friends with a lot of the teammates here. Talk about kind of our team culture and kind of how close this team is. I think Rock and I talk a lot about how close we feel it is, but how do you think? How close do you think you guys are?
It's ridiculous how close we are, honestly. It's like a brotherhood. Like, I can't even explain it, but like I can go to any person on the team and like tell them anything and they'll help me out. They're always willing to help. It's pretty awesome, actually. And like the other part of the brotherhood is like we might fight, we might yell at each other at practice, but the second that practice is over, we're all friends again.
How do you think that's do you think that's been a part of the fact that we have a lot of kids in the same class, a lot of guys who are that junior, senior age, who are really close in age? Maybe that's helped that situation out? Or, Scott, Gabe, and Nick maybe being a little bit older, but are they able to come down and help be the leaders of the team and kind of corroborate with all you guys?
Well, yeah, especially Gabe and Scott really help out. Like, what I learned from Gabe, especially like last year when we were in Puerto Rico, me and Gabe kind of like collided under the net at one of the practices. I don't know if you remember this, but we were yelling at each other the whole practice, like screaming, saying we're gonna beat each other up. But like the second that practice was over, we were fine. So like learning that from Gabe to where you can't take things personally. Like just because we're yelling at each other doesn't mean we're not gonna be fine once it's done. And then with Scott, he's just like, and you can go say anything to him, and he's willing to help. And then he's also like an energy guy, so learning that from him really helped out.
Scott and you kind of have the same personality you are on the court with that intense, energy, spark plug kind of attitude. Talk a little bit about what you think that brings to the team and maybe the difficulties of doing that, being the energy guy, but also worrying about the stuff that you got to do.
Yeah, well, I love being the energy guy because like getting your teammates pumped, like seeing their reaction when you're just screaming in their face is hilarious. Honestly, so like learning that from Scott's been pretty awesome, and like, but you got to still like focus. Like you can't get too excited or like, and it can't be like a roller coaster. Like a lot of times the energy guy will be like up and down to where like he'll be super pumped when you're doing well, but then when you aren't doing as well, he'll like get like down and like be the negative Nancy on the court. It's like you really got to focus that you can't be that negative person. You got to stay positive, like. And even if it's like the beginning of a game, 5-1, and you're getting crushed, the second you get that second point, you got to go nuts because that's what's going to help you get out of the rut.
Move forward in a positive direction. Well, what are you looking forward to with the last 8 matches of this conference season, the end of this year? What are the things that you're looking forward to? What are the things you're looking for this team to achieve?
Well, hopefully getting some wins.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think if we play to our potential, we can beat anybody, including Ohio State. Like we used to think they're untouchable. Like they hadn't lost it was 39 in a row or 49, something like that.
It was like 46 or something. It was something crazy like that.
And but I mean UCI smacked them. And we took a set off at UCI, so I really think that if we show up to play, we can beat anybody.
Sky's the limit. Get a bunch of wins, huh?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Frostinese, for joining us. A great insight into his mind and into the guy's mind a little bit. So we appreciate him for joining us. Coming up next, we'll bring back Coach Rock Parat, and we'll talk about Grand Canyon. See you after the break.
We are this close.
We're this close.
We are this close.
Of wanting to
to making history. This close to changing the world.
We're this close.
This close to making sure no child suffers a crippling disease
Ever again.
This close. We are this close to ending polio.
Ending polio. All we need is you.
This close. If we don't act now, we may lose this chance forever. Help Rotary make history at endpolionow.org.
I specialize in the ways that technology is impacting communication, relationships, and learning. One of my primary expertise areas is sexting and the impact of social media on sexuality and communication within romantic relationships. Working with students is my favorite part of this job, and I'm trying to equip them with the skills they need to be competitive candidates in the world, whatever world they're going to choose to pursue.
Welcome back, everybody, to VolleyDons Weekly. I'm your host, JW Kiekefer. With me, we have head coach Ryan Rock Parat back for the last segment. A quick thank you to our sponsors, or the rest of our sponsors, IAB Bank, Indiana Physical Therapy, Molten ONE, and Pizza Hut. Coach Rock, welcome back.
I didn't go anywhere.
You just sat there in the corner listening to our good friend Austin Neese.
I didn't go anywhere.
Austin Neese has really done some good things for our volleyball team coming off the bench. It's not necessarily a role that's easy or something that you ever wanted to do as a volleyball player, but he's kind of swallowed his pride a little bit and done a really good job of doing that, be that energy guy and coming off the bench and scoring some points for us.
The greatest reward in all of sport is not the MVP. It's the Sixth Man of the Year award in basketball. How people come off the bench and play first of all, it takes a remarkable individual and a human being to do that, number one. But number two is, it's the ultimate compliment to a team player. And I think any human being who can come off the bench, I didn't experience that when I was a player in all the sports I competed at, but I've always wondered how that's like it. And God bless him, because it takes a special set. And Austin touched it. You always got to be involved. You always got to be engaged. You always got to be encouraging. You always got to be ready to go, because you never know when that moment might call. And Austin has done a very nice job in that particular sense.
And he talked a little bit about how the team camaraderie, team culture is really good here, and how he's friends with pretty much everybody on the team, or everybody on the team, he made it sound like. So it's one of those things that he's just a really good kid. He means really well, and like you said, it takes somebody who has that feeling, right? They want to do their best for everybody as opposed to just himself. That's kind of the attitude you have to have when you're on the bench. Maybe it's not the place you want to be, but when you get that chance to make an impact, he goes in and is fiery and does his best to make an impact and doesn't whine or mope on the bench at all.
Well, no one ever wants to be on the bench. I mean, everybody wants to play.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure you capitalize on the opportunity once it's given to you. And you know, it's a tough thing. Austin came in California after Tony got hurt and was thrown to the fire right away. And so I think it's been a great learning experience for him in regards to his capabilities. And I think the makeup of our team is one where I think there is so much camaraderie, there is so much cohesion, that it's almost to a fault. Because sometimes complacency breeds contempt. And I think it's great that our guys are studious, professional, polite. You love every single one of them. They're like your children. It's pretty amazing. But
okay.
I think it's an amazing thing. What they need to learn to do is to learn to take that cohesion and flip the switch to be competitive. Because you're not going to hurt somebody's feelings because you're so close. If you didn't have a close relationship, that's when feelings get hurt. And that's the one thing I'd like to see happen once in a blue moon. There's a reason why.
And Austin's one of those people who flips the switch pretty good, though. He gets after it and gets after some people, too.
And there's a reason why, for example, why I keep telling I can't wait for McKendree. Because of the fact that we flip the switch when teams do certain things to us. And maybe Grand Canyon's like that, I don't know. But so, yeah, I liked everything that Austin had to say. And we had a wonderful time, obviously, with his family and so forth in the Chicago area. And he's a good kid.
So talk about the upcoming matches this week. We talked a little bit about Grand Canyon early on and how you think they're one of the most underrated teams in the NCAA right now, with especially the MIVA. Talk a little bit about what the challenges they bring, some of the difficulties they're going to bring to our volleyball team.
Well, people can't vote. That's number one. I voted Grand Canyon in the top 15 the last 3 weeks. Ohio State loses one match. Long Beach State's lost two. They go up to number 1. People can't vote. People are so stupid. It drives me nuts.
And Ohio State's beaten Long Beach State, by the way,
drives me nuts. BYU was 4. UCLA was 2. BYU beats UCLA twice. Long Beach State is 3. They go to 2 as opposed to Long Beach State going to 2 to take. People are freaking stupid. Anyway.
Some of the difficulties that Grand Canyon brings to us. What are the things that are going to challenge us out in Phoenix from Grand Canyon?
Listen, Grand Canyon, physical, really good pin attack. They bring a lot of heat. Their serving is so-so. I don't think their serving can beat you so-so, but I love what they do on the pins. I love what their block does defensively because they shadow and touch everything at the net. And they play with this unbelievable home court advantage. They have this small little arena, and they jam in about 1,200, 1,500 people in there. And boy, do they make a lot of noise. It is an unbelievable environment over there. Their coach, Matt Worley, who I've known for a long, long time, I played against him, has done a tremendous job with that program, and I'm very, very happy for him. I hope that we can match here's the best comparison of playing Grand Canyon at Grand Canyon. It's like playing Rafael Nadal on clay. You better dig in for 5 hours because that's how long it's going to take you to beat Grand Canyon. You've got to be mentally tough in the toughest of circumstances to beat Grand Canyon. That's the best analogy that I can give.
Especially in the second night.
And especially because it's a mental warfare the first night. Even if they might beat you 3-0, you might beat them 3-0, it's a mental warfare where the next night, for some unbeknownst reason, they get stronger. As you wilt, they get stronger like Rafael Nadal.
And the same thing happened to us here at the Gate Center last year with Grand Canyon. We beat them in a really hard-fought 5-set match the first night. Both teams played pretty well. We thought we had some things on them. We thought we know what they were going to do. They came out in the second night, and they kind of wiped the floor with us and beat us in 3 and got on out. So they just bring a different energy, a different vibe, and we talk about that. Part of that is they get to play double matches every year, every week, basically, right? Because in our conference, most of the time, the rest of the teams go out and they play Lindenwood and Quincy, or they go play Lewis and Loyola on a weekend. We don't play the same team twice in 1 week, whereas they're well versed in that. Both their coaching staff and their players know how to make adjustments going to that second match because that's what they do every single week. Whereas that's something that's not new to us, or foreign to us, but it's something that's just different for us. We're not used to having to do that. While we can do that just as well as they do, their players are really, really good at that.
You said that earlier this week, and that's an interesting theory because only BYU, Hawaii, and Stanford do that.
Yeah.
Play back-to-back matches anymore.
Yeah.
We all used to do it. Nobody does it anymore to give competitive advantage.
Well, and the same team back-to-back.
And the same team back-to-back. Well, they don't make athletes like they used to. That's number one. But number two is the fact that those schools do that. And you're right. It's paid dividends because except for Grand Canyon, 3 of those teams are in the top 5 in the country.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing. At least 2 out of the 5 Stanford's in the top 10. So that's very interesting that you say that. But it takes a special athlete to be able to do that these days.
Yeah.
And volleyball is the only sport, team sport at least, where you have to play back-to-back. You don't do that in football. You don't do that in basketball. Not even in the NCAA tournament because you get a day off.
Yeah.
And obviously we're going out to Phoenix looking forward to the NCAA tournament as well. That should be something sweet. Huh?
Well, good. March Madness, baby. March Madness. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to VolleyDons Weekly. I'm your host, J.W. Kiekefer. A big thanks to Austin Neese for joining us, and as always, a big thanks to head coach Ryan Perrott for joining us and being the face of the program.
Appreciate it.
Sign off for me, huh? You did it last time, so do it again. No? Get your serves in. See you next week, everybody.
See you next time on the radio.